Hello from Mindset Daily, wishing you a day full of health, peace, and happiness. Thank you for watching the Mindset Daily channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much.
What if the real fight isn't with the person, but with the spirit behind them? Have you ever felt like no matter how clearly you speak, someone keeps twisting your words? And could it be that the exhaustion you feel isn't emotional, but spiritual? Not every battle is yours to fight. Sometimes the struggle you're caught in has nothing to do with the surface level argument. Sometimes the tension runs deeper into the spiritual realm. When I say you shouldn't waste time explaining yourself to the demons and people, I'm not speaking in vague metaphors. I'm talking about real spiritual forces that operate beyond what your eyes can see. You may find yourself constantly defending your character, your words, or your intentions. You explain, you clarify, you speak from the heart. Yet the person before you continues to twist your meaning, question your motives, and challenge your integrity. That's not just miscommunication. That's a spiritual attack in disguise. It's so easy to get caught in the cycle of trying to make others understand you. You think, maybe if I say it this way, they'll finally get it. Or if I explain it just one more time, they'll see where I'm coming from. But instead, you end up stuck, repeating yourself, rephrasing, overthinking, like pouring your energy into a bottomless pit. And that's because you're not just dealing with a person. You're confronting a spirit of confusion, a spirit of accusation, and a spirit of manipulation. These spirits aren't seeking clarity. They thrive in chaos. They're not after truth. They feed on distortion. They're not looking for peace. They exist to destroy it. Have you noticed how some people always find a way to turn your words against you? You say, I'm working on my health, and they hear, you think you're better than me. You mention a new opportunity, and suddenly they're questioning your worth or your motives. You share your joy, and they greet it with skepticism. Or worse, cold indifference. It's like talking to a wall, except that wall throws bricks back at you. And yet, you keep trying, hoping that this time, the response will be different. But it never is. And the more you try, the more depleted you become. This isn't just emotional burnout. It's a spiritual exchange. You're handing over your energy, your joy, your peace to something that was never meant to carry it in the first place. You're pouring yourself into someone who may have unknowingly or knowingly opened their heart to bitterness. They've allowed envy, anger, or bitterness to take root in their hearts. And those roots run deep. So when you speak to them, you're not speaking to their healed, whole, or rational selves. You're speaking to their wounds. You're encountering their fears. You're face to face with the darkness they've permitted to grow inside them over time. And often, it's not even a conscious decision on their part. Many don't realize they've become vessels for negativity. They believe they're just being honest, standing up for themselves, or speaking their truth. But in reality, what they're doing is projecting their unresolved pain straight onto you. And there you are, with your open heart, with your good intentions, standing in the middle of their storm, trying to make sense of it all. You search for the right words. You think if you could just say it differently, maybe you'd finally break through. But what if the solution isn't found in another explanation? What if your breakthrough doesn't come from saying more, but from stepping back and guarding your spirit? Look at Jesus. When he stood before Pilate, accused, attacked, misunderstood, he didn't plead. He didn't argue. He didn't rush to explain himself. He stood silent. Why? Because he knew the truth. And he also knew that no amount of explaining could soften the hearts of those who were already hardened. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing. Sometimes the greatest strength is in walking away, not in weakness, but in wisdom. Not every audience deserves your story. Not every ear is ready for your truth. And not every spirit is worthy of your energy. When you engage with someone operating under the influence of darkness, you're stepping into their battlefield. And no matter how well you speak, how much you care, or how hard you try, it's a battle that can't be won through words. So instead of engaging, start discerning. Instead of explaining, start retreating. This isn't about avoiding conflict or shrinking back. It's about recognizing when a conversation is no longer about resolution. It's about spiritual survival. Some battles are designed only to drain. These moments, these conversations that seem to go in circles, they're more than just frustrating. They're traps, and the enemy knows exactly what he's doing. If he can keep you constantly defending yourself, if he can keep you distracted from your purpose, if he can trap you in endless debates that go nowhere, he can quietly steal your time, your energy, and your focus. If he can make you second-guess your own worth through the lens of someone else's opinion, he can chip away at your confidence and silence your voice. You have to rise above that. You have to recognize the moment when a conversation stops being a conversation and becomes a tactic, a subtle scheme to pull you off course. And in that moment, you must be willing to say, I don't need to explain myself here. And let that be enough. Your value doesn't come from your ability to convince others. Your truth doesn't lose its power simply because someone refuses to see it. You don't owe everyone an explanation, and you certainly don't owe the enemy a seat at your table. You are not obligated to make demons comfortable. You are called to walk in peace, in truth, and in power. And sometimes that calling requires one simple but courageous act: walking away. Don't mistake silence for surrender. It is not defeat. It is strategy. Don't confuse distance with weakness. Sometimes it is wisdom in motion. There's a reason Scripture tells us, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. How can you guard your heart if you keep leaving it wide open to attack? How can you maintain your peace if you're constantly placing it on the table for debate? The enemy knows all of this. That's why he often uses people, sometimes even the ones closest to you, to pull you into battles you were never meant to fight. But here's the truth. You still have a choice. You can choose to protect your peace. You can choose to keep your spirit whole. You can choose to let your silence speak for you and let your peace stand as your defense. Because peace is one of the most valuable things you possess. It's not something to hand out carelessly. And it's certainly not meant for those who thrive on chaos, confusion, and emotional unrest. We live in a world that's constantly competing for your attention, your energy, and your peace of mind. And often, the disruptions come in the form of people. Those who always have a complaint, a criticism, or a crisis. You know the type. The ones who never acknowledge the good, who always highlight the flaw, who seem to thrive on stirring tension the moment they walk into the room. If you're not careful, you'll find yourself giving away your peace piece by piece to the very people who thrive on taking it. You end up explaining yourself, defending your actions, trying desperately to make them understand your heart. But the cost? It's too high. Protecting your peace isn't a luxury or a suggestion. It's a necessity. Every time you feel compelled to explain who you are, why you did what you did, or what you meant by your words, you're handing over a small part of yourself. It might feel like just another conversation, just one more explanation. But over time, those just one more moments start to add up. And suddenly, you're feeling drained, and you can't quite figure out why. It's because, slowly, you've allowed your peace to be chipped away, bit by bit. The more you engage with negativity, the more room you give it in your spirit. What begins as their external chaos seeps inward, becoming your internal conflict. What starts as their confusion turns into your anxiety. Their emotional unrest becomes your burden. Some people carry disruption with them like a cloud. Even in calm environments, it only takes minutes before they find something to stir up. They'll argue over anything, doubt everything, and find offense in nothing. They question your motives. They twist your words. And somehow, you're the one who ends up feeling like you're always on trial. And here's the danger. If you're not aware, you'll start to believe that it's your responsibility to fix the situation, to calm their storm, to justify your every word. But it's not. That pressure is not yours to carry. Your peace is not a bargaining chip. You're not obligated to trade your calm for someone else's chaos. Picture this. You're standing in a clear, flowing river. The water is peaceful, calm, transparent. Then someone walks in and starts stirring the mud with a stick. Suddenly, the water turns murky and chaotic. Now, you have a choice: reach down and join in the mess, or step back and let the water settle. That's what protecting your peace really looks like. It's choosing stillness when everything around you feels like a storm. It's resisting the urge to react to every jab, every insult, every twisted comment. It's refusing to internalize criticism that was never about you in the first place. And let's be clear, protecting your peace isn't about cutting yourself off from people or avoiding every uncomfortable moment. It's about choosing wisdom. It's about staying rooted in your values. It's about recognizing that peace doesn't mean everything around you is calm. It means you remain calm in spite of it. Protecting your peace means setting boundaries that honor your well-being. It's recognizing that you cannot pour into others from an empty cup. You can't keep giving when you're not being replenished. And sometimes, the people draining you don't even realize they're doing it. They've lived in dysfunction for so long that your peace feels foreign to them, even threatening. They see your calm, and it unsettles them. They see your joy, and they feel the need to question it. They see your confidence, and something inside them wants to tear it down. That's why you have to make a conscious decision not to let them. Protecting your peace doesn't always mean physically walking away. Sometimes, it means creating emotional distance. It's refusing to give someone the power to disturb your inner world. You can be physically present without being emotionally entangled. You can hear their words without taking them in. You can see what's happening and still choose not to be pulled into it. It's the discipline of observing without reacting, watching without absorbing. It's knowing when to engage and when to remain silent, when to step in and when to step back, when to fight and when to let go. Because the truth is, there will always be people who misunderstand you. People who assume they know your heart when they don't. People who project their insecurities, their pain, and their unresolved wounds onto you. And if you constantly try to explain yourself to them, you'll get caught in their web of confusion. You'll replay conversations in your mind. You'll doubt your words, your actions, even your identity. But peace comes when you let go of that. When you finally realize you don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to respond to every accusation, defend yourself against every misunderstanding, or validate someone's distorted version of you. Because peace isn't the absence of conflict, it's the presence of clarity. It's knowing exactly who you are, standing firm in your intention, and remaining at rest in your spirit no matter the chaos around you. It's holding on to joy even when others try to steal it. It's keeping your focus even when others try to distract you. It's standing in your truth even when others refuse to recognize it. And sometimes, protecting your peace looks like silence. It looks like walking away. It looks like saying, I don't need to explain myself, and being completely okay with that. And let that be enough, because your peace is precious. It is sacred, and not everyone deserves access to it. Sometimes, protecting your peace means being willing to disappoint people. It means letting them think what they want, say what they want, and believe what they want, without trying to correct or convince them. You are not responsible for managing everyone else's emotions. That weight was never meant for your shoulders. You are only responsible for managing your own heart, your own peace, your own boundaries. So the next time someone steps into your space bringing confusion or chaos, remember this. You don't have to explain yourself to the demons and people. You don't need to defend your joy, your growth, or your peace to anyone who is actively trying to dismantle it. Hold your peace. Guard your heart. Stand firm in who you are. And let your silence speak louder than your words ever could. Discernment is one of the most powerful tools you will ever develop. It's that inner knowing, that subtle, sacred whisper inside that tells you when something isn't right. It's more than just gut instinct. It's spiritual insight. It's the ability to see beyond the surface, to feel what's unseen, and to sense when someone's energy doesn't align with your assignment. When you encounter people who challenge your integrity, who question your motives, or who attempt to pull you into unnecessary conflict, discernment is what helps you pause and ask, is this conversation worth my energy, or is this a trap best avoided? Discernment teaches you the difference between someone who's genuinely seeking clarity and someone who's only trying to drag you into their chaos. It reveals the true intention behind the words. It uncovers whether they're speaking from understanding or from resentment, insecurity, or unresolved pain. Because here's the truth. Not every situation requires your engagement. Not every question deserves a response. Not every accusation needs your defense. When you walk in discernment, you begin to see the spirit behind the surface. You recognize when someone is operating from a place of brokenness, hurt, jealousy, bitterness. And when you see it clearly, you realize you don't have to fight back. You can rise above it. You can choose not to get pulled into the storm. That's what discernment gives you. The ability to pause, to breathe, and to see clearly before reacting. It allows you to take a step back and assess a situation with spiritual clarity, not just emotional impulse. It's like standing in front of fire. From the outside, your instinct might be to throw water on it, but discernment tells you that, in some cases, that water might only make the flames rise higher. Sometimes, what looks like help only fuels the chaos. There are people who will come into your life wearing a mask, pretending to be allies, pretending to support you, pretending to care. But over time, the truth reveals itself. Their words turn sharp behind your back. Their encouragement begins to sound more like doubt. Subtly, they begin planting seeds of confusion, twisting your words, reshaping your actions, distorting your intentions. Without discernment, you might find yourself caught in their web. Constantly explaining yourself, trying to prove your loyalty, striving to win them over. But with discernment, something shifts. You begin to recognize that the problem isn't you. It's what's unresolved within them. And because of that, you don't have to engage with their confusion. You don't have to be part of their storm. Discernment isn't about judging others. It's about protecting yourself. It's about understanding the difference between someone speaking from truth and someone speaking from pain, fear, or manipulation. It teaches you when to press in and when to step away, when your words will bring clarity, and when they'll only fuel misunderstanding. Because there will be times when, no matter how clearly you explain yourself, the other person won't understand. Not because you're unclear, but because they're not in a place to receive your truth. They're trapped in their own perspective. They're clinging to their narrative, and they're not ready or willing to let it go. So in those moments, you have a decision to make. Do you keep speaking, hoping that this time will be different? Or do you hold your peace, knowing that sometimes silence is the most powerful response you can offer? Discernment also helps you spot patterns, those familiar signs you've ignored in the past. You begin to notice how certain people always bring conflict into your life. It doesn't matter how well the conversation starts. You always leave feeling drained, anxious, or unsettled. No matter how pure your intentions are, they find a way to twist them. You could be celebrating a win, and they'll downplay it. You could be sharing a truth, and they'll question your heart. You could be offering love with sincerity, and somehow, they'll twist it into an obligation. Without discernment, you might assume the issue is you, that maybe you said it wrong, or it didn't do enough. But with discernment, your vision sharpens. You begin to see clearly, this was never about you. It's about them. And the demons they haven't dealt with. Here's the truth. Some people aren't looking for answers. They're looking for arguments. They're not seeking clarity. They're seeking control. They're not interested in resolution. They're invested in the chaos. And no matter how carefully, kindly, or honestly you explain yourself, it will never be enough. You could lay out every reason, speak every truth, offer every detail with grace, and still, they'll find a way to use it against you. So when you recognize this pattern, you have to pause and ask yourself, why am I still engaging? Why am I explaining myself to someone who has no intention of hearing me, let alone understanding me? That's where discernment becomes your shield. It empowers you to protect your peace, not by force, but through wisdom. It gives you permission to walk away without guilt. It reminds you that not every open door is meant for you to walk through. Not every invitation is meant to be accepted. Not every conversation is yours to join. There's deep wisdom in knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. There's strength in recognizing when someone is not ready for your truth and choosing, in love, to hold that truth for someone who is. There's power in choosing your battles wisely. When you walk in discernment, you stop taking everything personally. You stop internalizing other people's projections as your own. You stop trying to defend your identity against every misunderstanding or misrepresentation. Instead, you stand firm in who you are. You let your actions speak where words won't be heard. You let your peace be your response. And sometimes, the most effective way to deal with the demons in people is not to confront them, but to let them fight their own battles. Because you are not their savior. You are not their scapegoat. You are not their emotional punching bag. You are a person of purpose, of peace, of power. And you do not owe an explanation to those who are committed to misunderstanding you. Because when you walk in discernment, everything shifts. You speak differently. You respond differently. And most of all, you live differently. When you walk in discernment, you begin to live differently. You understand that your time, your energy, and your peace are far too valuable to waste on those who aren't ready or willing to receive them. So the next time you find yourself face to face with someone who challenges you, pause and ask, is this truly a conversation worth having? Or am I just explaining myself to the demons in people? If it's the latter, then stand firm. Hold your peace. And when needed, walk away. Boundaries are not just helpful suggestions. They are essential. They are the invisible lines that guard your heart, preserve your energy, and protect your mental and emotional well-being. When you set boundaries, you're not being mean, rude, or distant. You're being wise. You are acknowledging that not everyone should have access to your time, your thoughts, or your spirit. Because here's the truth. If you don't define those boundaries, others will define them for you. And you'll find yourself in a constant cycle of explaining, defending, and overextending yourself for people who have no real intention of ever understanding you. You'll feel depleted, stretched thin, and wondering why peace keeps slipping through your fingers. Some people don't just ignore your boundaries. They thrive on crossing them. They see your kindness as weakness. They see your patience as an open door. They push. They prod. They test. Not because they need anything from you, but simply to see how far they can go. They'll guilt you. They'll manipulate you. They'll twist your intentions and try to convince you that your boundaries are the real problem. But they're not. Your boundaries are not the issue. Their lack of respect is. And once you recognize that truth, everything becomes clearer. You are under no obligation to explain your boundaries to anyone. You don't owe anyone a justification for protecting your peace. You don't need to apologize for needing space, rest, clarity, or distance. You don't need to explain why you said no or why you're choosing to protect your peace. Setting boundaries isn't about building walls to shut people out. It's about creating space where the right people can come in. It's about surrounding yourself with those who honor your limits, respect your space, and bring peace instead of chaos. Think of boundaries like a filter. They don't block everything. They simply help you let in what nourishes your soul and keep out what drains it. But if your boundaries are undefined, if they're inconsistent or unclear, it's like leaving the front door of your home wide open and then wondering why the wind keeps blowing everything out of place. You have to be intentional about who you let into your inner circle. Not everyone who knocks on the door of your life deserves a seat at your table. Some people only show up when they want something. And the moment you set a boundary, they react, not with understanding, but with anger or resentment. They may accuse you of being distant, selfish, or unkind. But more often than not, that reaction isn't really about your boundary. It's about their discomfort with no longer having control over you. They've grown used to you always saying yes, always being available, always explaining, justifying, bending. So when you start to say no, when you stop overextending, it rattles them. It confronts the unspoken truth. They were benefiting from your lack of boundaries. And instead of adjusting to the new reality, they lash out. Instead of respecting your need for space, they try to guilt you for needing it. But here's what you need to remember. If someone genuinely cares about you, they will respect your boundaries. They may not love them. They may even struggle to accept them at first, but they will honor them. Because healthy people understand that boundaries are not barriers. They are gates meant to keep what is sacred safe. When you set a boundary, you're not just communicating with others. You're sending a message to yourself. You're declaring that your peace matters, that your mental and emotional well-being is worth protecting, that your voice deserves space, that your spirit is not a playground for manipulation or misuse. And that declaration? It's powerful. It shifts the energy in your relationships. It redefines how people treat you. It draws a clear line in the sand and lets the world know that your time, your energy, and your presence are not to be taken for granted. But here's the key. You have to be consistent. You can't set a boundary on Monday and abandon it by Friday. You can't draw a line and keep erasing it every time someone complains. You're not here to constantly accommodate someone else's comfort. Boundaries are not meant to be soft suggestions that shift with someone else's mood. They're meant to be firm and steady, like guardrails on a winding road. They exist to keep your life on track, to protect you from veering into emotional chaos. There will always be those who try to negotiate with your boundaries. They'll push, prod, and test, looking for cracks. And this is where discernment becomes your compass. You must recognize when someone's persistence isn't rooted in genuine care, but in seeing how far they can push you, how much they can get away with. You have to be willing to reinforce your boundaries, even when it feels awkward, even when it feels harsh. Because if you don't, the same people who ignore your limits will be the ones who drain your peace. They'll keep you stuck in cycles of explanation, justification, and self-doubt. Sometimes, the hardest boundaries to set are with the people you care about most, your family, your closest friends, or your coworkers. They may be used to having constant access to you. They might not understand why you're no longer always available, why you're no longer engaging in every conversation, or why you're stepping back. But that's okay. Your role is not to make them comfortable with your boundaries. It's to uphold them. That's your responsibility. Because setting boundaries isn't rude. It's not selfish. It's wise. It's being a faithful steward of your time, your energy, and your peace. Boundaries don't just keep toxicity out. They create a space where you can actually thrive. They free you to focus on what truly matters. They create room for nurturing healthy relationships, and they stop you from constantly being pulled into emotional quicksand. They help you manage your emotional bandwidth, so you're not always running on empty. They empower you to step away from conversations that lead nowhere, from relationships that leave you drained, and from environments that only feed your anxiety. And here's something you need to let sink in. You don't owe everyone an explanation. Let me say that again. You do not owe everyone an explanation. There's a powerful freedom in realizing that not every decision you make needs to be justified. Not every step you take has to be defended. And not every choice you embrace requires someone else's approval. You don't owe anyone a detailed account of your every step. Yet, we live in a world that constantly pressures us to justify our choices, to make sure everyone understands our motives, our heart, our journey. But here's the truth. No matter how carefully you explain yourself, there will always be people who refuse to understand. Some will twist your words, question your decisions, and nitpick your every move. Not because you're unclear, but because they are unwilling to see with open eyes. And if you're not intentional, you could find yourself drained, trying to earn the approval of people who are never supposed to validate your journey in the first place. So ask yourself this. Why am I explaining? Am I doing it because I want to be understood, or because I'm secretly seeking permission? There's a big difference. One comes from strength and clarity. The other is rooted in insecurity and doubt. If you know deep down that you're walking in truth, following a path aligned with your purpose, then you don't need the applause of those who were never called to walk with you. Your journey is unique. It wasn't assigned to them, it was given to you. And that means not everyone will understand it, and that's okay. Some were never meant to. And here's where many people get trapped. You start explaining, thinking you're building a bridge. But instead of connection, you find confusion. Instead of resolution, you get pulled deeper into misunderstanding. Have you ever tried to bring clarity, only to walk away feeling even more uncertain? That's because some people aren't looking for clarity, they're looking for control. They're not trying to understand you. They're trying to keep you talking, to keep you distracted, to keep you doubting. They keep you defending yourself. They keep you questioning your intentions, your words, even your worth. And in doing so, they gain a sense of control, shifting the focus away from the real issue and replacing it with manufactured drama. Before long, you're no longer standing in truth, but wandering through a maze of empty conversations that lead nowhere. This is exactly why discernment is essential. You must learn to recognize the difference between when an explanation is necessary and when silence holds more power. Because sometimes, the strongest response you can offer is no response at all. Silence isn't a sign of surrender. It's not defeat. Silence is strategy. It's a powerful way of reclaiming your authority, of refusing to pour your energy into meaningless battles. When you choose not to explain yourself, you're not being cold or arrogant. You're being wise. You're protecting your peace rather than handing it over to someone who never intended to honor it in the first place. You're preserving your energy for the spaces and people who deserve it. This isn't about shutting people out or refusing accountability. Of course, there are times when honest conversations are needed, when clear explanations lead to healing, to reconciliation, to growth. But that's not what we're addressing here. What we're talking about is that exhausting kind of explaining, the kind that comes from seeking approval, fearing rejection, or desperately wanting to be liked by everyone. That kind of explaining is a trap. It will drain you. It's a bottomless pit. And no matter how much of yourself you offer, it will never be enough. When you're truly aligned with your purpose, you begin to understand something powerful. Not everyone will be able to see your vision. And that's okay. They weren't meant to. Your vision was given to you, not to them. So naturally, some won't understand your choices. They won't agree with your direction. But they're not the ones living with the consequences. You are. And that's where freedom begins. The moment you realize you no longer need to justify every step, you start walking with quiet confidence. You stop needing everyone to understand you because you understand yourself. Your actions begin to speak louder than any explanation could. Your growth tells the story. Your peace becomes the proof. You can't control how people see you. You can't dictate how they interpret your actions or how they choose to receive your words. Even if you offer the clearest explanation, even if your heart is open and your intentions are pure, some people will still choose to misunderstand. And that's their choice, not your responsibility. You're not obligated to carry the burden of their confusion. You don't have to twist yourself in circles trying to make them see things your way. That's not your assignment. Your job is not to manage their perception of you. It's to live in alignment with your truth, to walk in integrity, and to protect your peace. There's something deeply powerful about knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. It's not about hiding the truth. It's about knowing where your truth will be received. It's about having the wisdom to recognize when your voice will bring clarity and when it will only add more noise to the chaos. Sometimes the most impactful explanation isn't words, it's consistency. It's the quiet, steady way you live out your purpose. Let your life speak for itself. Let your joy be your response. Let your growth and your peace be the evidence. And when the time is right, let your success speak louder than any defense ever could. Not everyone will understand your calling, and that's okay. They weren't meant to. Not everyone will see the vision that's been placed in your spirit. Not everyone will grasp why you move the way you do, why you say no when others expect yes, or why you follow a path that looks unfamiliar to them. Some will question your motives. Some will criticize your choices or mock your faith. They may try to bait you into debates or pressure you to explain yourself endlessly. But here's what you must remember. Your calling was not a group announcement. It wasn't broadcast to the world. It was a quiet whisper from God, meant only for you. And when you truly understand that, something shifts. You stop needing validation from voices that were never meant to guide you. You stop explaining your journey to those who were never called to walk it with you. When you're living with purpose, you move differently. You hear a rhythm others can't hear. It's like moving through a crowded room, drawn forward by a melody that only your soul recognizes. And yes, in that crowd, there will always be those who try to throw you off beat. They'll ask you to slow down, to fit in, to explain why you won't follow the crowd. Just because everyone else is doing things one way doesn't mean you owe them an explanation for choosing a different path. You're under no obligation to slow down your pace just to make others feel comfortable. You're not required to shrink your vision so it can fit into someone else's limited frame of reference. There are moments, subtle ones, when the enemy will try to use people around you, even those closest to you, to distract you from your calling. And here's the tricky part. They often don't even know they're being used. They may believe they're helping, offering sound advice, or keeping you grounded. But if their words start pulling you away from your purpose, if what they say plants seeds of doubt instead of inspiration, then it's time to step back and pay attention. Sometimes distractions don't come loudly. They're dressed in concern, coated in reason, even wrapped in something that feels like love. But not everything wrapped in affection is aligned with your assignment. If their presence clouds your clarity, what you're facing isn't guidance, it's misdirection. When you're clear in your calling, you must also be clear on what is guiding you forward and what is pulling you off track. Your purpose was never meant to be easy, predictable, or universally accepted. It will often feel uncomfortable. It might even feel confusing at times. But you don't need a complete blueprint to take the next step. You don't need approval to move forward. All you need is faith in where you're going and the wisdom to avoid getting tangled in pointless conversations that lead nowhere. When people start questioning your direction, when they challenge your motivation or second-guess your vision, you don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to justify your path to those who were never meant to walk it with you. Sometimes the most powerful response you can offer is progress. There will always be people who want to debate your destiny. They'll want to examine every decision you make, dissect your every move, and hold your purpose up to the light of their own limited expectations. But not every question deserves an answer. Not every critic deserves your energy. Sometimes the best thing you can do is keep going quietly, confidently, and consistently. Let your actions echo what your words don't need to explain. Keep building, keep creating, keep moving forward. Because while they're busy talking, you're busy becoming. While they're busy debating your choices, you're busy building something meaningful. While they're questioning your every move, you're already walking boldly in your calling. Once you gain clarity on your purpose, you begin to realize one vital truth. Your focus is your greatest asset. And the moment you allow distractions to creep in, you lose momentum. Focus and explanations rarely walk hand in hand. Every time you stop to justify yourself to people who are not aligned with your direction, you surrender a piece of your forward motion. Every time you pause to defend your path to those who were never meant to journey with you, you hand over power that was never theirs to begin with. Your time? It's too valuable to spend explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Your energy? Far too precious to waste on those who only seek to drain it. And your purpose? It's far too important to let it be delayed or detoured by voices that were never meant to guide you. The hard truth is this: not everyone will cheer for your calling. Not everyone will applaud your progress. Some will try to shrink your vision to match their limited perspective. They'll project their fears, their doubts, and their insecurities onto you, convincing you that their limitations should also be yours. But you must stand strong. You must hold on to what you know is true. Sometimes, walking in your purpose means walking alone. But remember this: the only validation you truly need is the quiet confirmation in your soul that you're on the right path, the one specifically designed for you, leading you straight to your destiny. So the next time you feel the urge to explain yourself, pause. Ask yourself, is this conversation worth sacrificing my peace? Is this explanation worth draining my energy? Is this person truly worth my time? If the answer is no, then hold your peace. Keep moving forward. Let your work speak louder than your words. Let your progress be your defense. Let your purpose be your proof. Because when you're aligned with your calling, you don't need to explain yourself to the demons in people. You just need to keep moving. Keep walking. Keep believing. Keep rising. Stand firm. Protect your peace. And let your purpose speak louder than any explanation ever could. In this life, not everyone is meant to understand your journey, and that's okay. You are not obligated to explain yourself to those who carry confusion, doubt, or negativity. Your peace, your purpose, and your growth will always speak louder than your words. Setting boundaries, choosing silence when needed, and protecting your calling. These aren't acts of pride, they're acts of wisdom. When you stop explaining yourself to the demons and people, you reclaim your power, preserve your peace, and stay on track with your purpose. Let your actions speak. Let your growth speak. Let your life be the evidence of the truth you carry. Stand firm. Hold your ground. Let their noise fade into the background while you keep walking boldly toward the destiny that's been waiting for you. Wishing you strength, peace, and abundant joy on your journey. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Mindset Daily, for more inspiration as you grow.